Good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to be able to share the story here at Rubys Pantry.
Now, I understand you are the executive director of this Home and Away Ministries.
That's correct.
And I wrote a newspaper story about a year and a half ago in the Fond du Lac Tribal newspaper regarding Rubys Pantry, and the woman, and forgive me for not remembering her name, told me that she was kind of surprised that there were so few Native participants. And to be honest with you, in the almost 3 years that I've lived here, I'd never heard of it before. And therein lies part of the problem. So please tell our listeners more about the organization.
Well, Rubys Pantry is a community outreach program of Home and Away Ministries. We're in our 10th year. We started in 2003. And Home and Away Ministries was originally started as a mission program in Mexico. I mean, it started here, but work done in Mexico. And through a series of events, we went to another organization to get toys and things for Mexico. And through in that process, we went down there not knowing they had food, and they filled our little pickup full of food. And we gave it away and went down the next weeks to get toys and so forth, and they filled our pickup full of food again. And this continued, and here we are almost 10 years later and hauling semi-loads of food.
That's outstanding. And I saw the website, and I saw how the history and the growth started, as you mentioned, with a pickup bed, and now you're getting into larger trucks, and you make these trips, and you have distribution sites all over Wisconsin and Minnesota, correct?
Correct. Northern tier of the state, we have 39 distribution sites, and so we distribute this month, I believe we handled 1.6 million pounds of food so far.
What kind of food would somebody participating in the program, what kind of food would they be expecting to receive?
It can be a variety of things. There will be some dairy products, which can be an assortment from yogurt to milk or whatever. There also can be, there's meat items. Usually we have chicken. And we also have, you get potatoes, and there's a certain amount of canned goods, although canned and dry goods are a little more difficult for us to come by because of the nature of what we get. We handle all corporate surplus.
Okay.
And a lot of people in the corporate surplus world, a lot of people don't understand that corporate surplus is not necessarily food that they want to throw away or is bad food or even outdated food. What it is that they can't get it through their system fast enough because everything is dated these days.
Yeah.
And so let's say, for example, that a major corporation has food that is 20, let's say they got so many days of dating time left and they can't send it to the store anymore. So if they have it, let's say they can't send it after the 20th, but the dating period is the 5th of the following month, they will call us on the 20th and say, we've got a semi-load of this or a semi-load of that, and we'll send our trucks to pick it up. Well, that gives us 2 weeks to move that food out through our system. And so we rarely have any outdated food, although it can happen, but sometimes dates are very misleading. Years ago, we never had such a thing as dates. It was either good or it wasn't,
All visual.
Yep, exactly. So we handle a lot of good quality food. We work with a lot of major manufacturers of food, and we don't get hardly anything ever at grocery stores. We get it before it ever goes to the grocery stores. So there's a whole difference in the quality that way.
I do remember when I wrote the article, the woman I interviewed for the story told me you might grab a bunch of grapes and there might be 2 or 3 that were starting to ripen or expire faster than the rest of the bunch. Sometimes you might get some miscellaneous, just individual grapes or things of that nature that would, they would go bad before the rest of the bunch. But that, it kind of explains it too, and it's such a substantial savings over having to buy all that at the grocery store. Right.
A lot of our distributions, we've never had any less than 50 pounds of food at a distribution. And sometimes there might be 150. And, we just ask for a small donation that to cover the trucking costs and all of that. And it works for everybody.
Well, it sounds like an outstanding program just by the nature. And we've been in this really poor economy for, well, I could personally verify about 5-6 years because I used to work in the automotive industry.
Sure.
And sales figures kind of dictated, with as far as the amount of hours I would work or overtime or, of that nature. And to the point where that industry lost approximately a third of their total sales versus peak years. And that's a huge ripple effect on the economy. Having said all that, you're looking at, thousands, millions of people unemployed that could benefit from a program like this. And then, of course, that was one of my questions during the interview. Who's eligible for this?
Well, we have a saying that anybody who eats is eligible. We don't have any requirements, and so you don't have to have income verifications or even addresses. We don't care where you're from. It doesn't matter. And sometimes people will be very judgmental. They'll drive by a distribution or something, and they'll make some kind of comment about, well, there was all of this, there was all these people with these nice cars in the parking lot. Well, having a nice car doesn't mean much anymore, because if you lost your job and you've got a payment on it, you've got to try to figure out how to pay it or give it back. And we have what's called the new poor. And those are those people who have got caught in this thing where they've got a decent house and they've got a decent car, but they don't have a job.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it affects everybody. There's hardly any people in this country that aren't in trouble right now.
I can definitely attest to that. And again, it's the most basic thing you require. You can go a couple days without food, but if there's an opportunity to benefit from it, it's not hurting anybody. It started out as a Christian-based ministry, but as and mentioned in the website, you don't have to be Christian to participate. It doesn't hurt, but anybody can benefit from it, and it's a fine generous gesture on behalf of the organization.
Well, we serve people from all different faiths, all different nationalities. Ethnic situations. We do not care. We're not into that. We're doing this to help people, and we help a lot of people. I think we're up towards that 10,000 families a month right now, something like that. And it's amazing how many people there are out there who have never heard of Rubys Pantry, and it becomes like a community event. People that never even knew each other before come to a distribution. They meet at the distribution, and they look forward to seeing each other every month. And it's a wonderful way to meet new friends as well as getting some help.
And I know that local businesses play a role in this. I know that the Cloquet distribution is the fourth Wednesday of every month.
Yes.
And I know the local Super One volunteers, shopping carts, and it's a fixed asset, but it's something that they don't have to do as an organization.
No. Grocery stores are a big supporter of what we do. They know what the picture is. And in some of our communities, they tell us when Rubys Pantry's in town, their sales are actually up that day because people need more than what's just at Rubys Pantry.
Understandable.
And so we have a really good relationship with the grocery stores, and they appreciate what we do. And a lot of them are right there to help out in any way they can.
So tell us more. I don't recall how many distribution sites you have in Wisconsin and Minnesota?
39.
Amazing.
We have about 60 communities on a waiting list.
Wow, that's just crazy. And I know with our signal, we can reach listeners near the Brainerd area, the Twin Ports, Duluth, Superior. Mm-hmm. Our signal stretches up toward two harbors, toward Grand Rapids, and down as far south as the signal starts to break up around Forest Lake, North Branch, in that general area, depending on your car radio or however you're picking us up. And so we have plenty of distribution sites within our umbrella. And if you want to just rattle off a few of those for our listeners.
Well, you got Cohasset, which is Grand Rapids area, and Brainerd, and of course then you have Duluth, Coppertop, Methodist Church, and then you have Hermantown and Morgan Park. We have two distributions in Superior, one starting in September and one in October. And then we have the Cloquet site in Brookston, Moose Lake, Hinckley, Pine City, North Branch, Forest Lake, Ogilvie, and we also have one in Little Falls and one in a place called Ramey, between Little Falls and Foley.
So our listeners could, well, there's definitely places and times that they could choose from depending on their schedule as well.
Right, and they can go to rubyspantry.org, and there's a place there where you can see all the distribution sites plus a calendar. You can pull up a calendar, and it'll show you where they're all at that week, that month. But we also on the site list all the places where the distributions are at and their starting times and all of that sort of thing.
Well, that's outstanding. And again, anybody who eats benefits from it. And I could definitely see how so many people could appreciate a program like this.
Yeah, and it's self-funded. We're not government-funded or anything. The donation we receive and ask for at the distribution is to cover the expenses. We always say it's a hand-up, not a handout. It's to help people to help meet their needs in a very unique way, and it gives people an opportunity for dignity. And that's something that's very important in people's lives today.
Well, it's a very highly charged political climate these days, and it's nice to see something that is completely independent of that.
Yeah, we receive no government funding of any kind.
That's outstanding. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just people just don't be bashful. Don't think you can't use the help. Sometimes people are just too proud. You know, they think that it's just for people who are poor, or they think it's for people who are abusing the system or whatever, but that's not it at all. Rubys Pantry was started originally with the idea of serving the underemployed, and especially single working moms, you know, that got a couple, 2, 3 kids that just can't make it. And, of course, a lot of things have changed since then, and we have the elderly, and we have folks with jobs, and we have people who are unemployed, and of all different walks of life. And so Rubys Pantry serves everybody. And but originally it was intended for people who just didn't make enough money to help get them through.
I moved to Minnesota a little less than 3 years ago. My younger son and I lived in the Detroit, Ann Arbor area of the state of Michigan, and we used to go out and feed. There's a program there called Meals on Wheels, where either the poor or the elderly or both would get meals delivered to them. And on a Thanksgiving Day about 4 years ago, he and I decided to participate in that by giving back a little bit, you know, a very small gesture. And the reason why I bring it up is because of something that I saw on the website, on the Rubys Pantry website, as far as distributing food, I should say. And wrapping up one of your paragraphs, it says sometimes it's hard to tell who is greater blessed, those receiving the food or those who bring it. And I can verify that because there's no better feeling than the gratitude to somebody that appreciates anything that you're doing, a gesture of any kind, and certainly this would apply. You know, it's a fine organization. I would like to share distribution information on our radio if that's not an objection.
No problem.
As well as on our Facebook page. I'd like to link your page to ours and let our listeners look at it whenever they have the opportunity.
Yep, that'd be great.
Well, Lyn Sahr, thank you so much for your time. Again, it's such a noble cause and helpful cause, and it doesn't require, as you mentioned, any income verification. It's there for people that need it the most, and everybody's eligible. And I'd like to thank you once again for your time.
Thank you. We're just trying to do our part in helping people along during these difficult times.
Thanks once again.
Thank you.
That's Lyn Sahr, Executive Director of Rubys Pantry, Home and Away Ministries, discussing this monthly distribution by Rubys Pantry for our listeners, for anybody that needs